There we go. Hey, hi filmmakers, hi audiences. Welcome to another Q&A for SF Independent Shorts Film Festival 2022. I'm Jason Wolos, one of the programmers for the Shorts Fest, and we are lucky to have some great filmmakers here from around somewhere. Hey guys, thanks for coming in. Where are you calling in from? Jason, where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm from downtown Los Angeles right now.
LA, in the house, always. Jen, where are you calling from?
San Diego,
All
California.
right, beautiful San Diego. Kyle.
Originally from San Mateo, California. That's where I am calling from right now.
All
Bay
right,
Area.
cool.
Yeah.
We're neighbors, right on.
Yeah.
And Maggie, how about you? Where are you calling in from?
I'm from in the middle of nowhere, Ontario. I'm outside of Toronto by about an hour and a half in a small town called Brighton, Ontario.
Brighton. I've been there. I love Toronto. I'm from Buffalo, New York originally.
Oh, okay. I could spit to there, but that's because, I'm a lesbian and we can spit far.
Right on. Well, hey, Maggie, since I'm on you, let's put your face to your film. Introduce yourself and your role in what movie and very briefly, what your movie's about.
Okay, so I did a really goofy little short called Maggie Mysteries, which was born out of my frustration watching Murdoch Mysteries, which is the show that is this sort of cop show set at the turn of the last century, 2 centuries ago. And I was on the treadmill. It was the only station that was on, and I'm like, where's the butchy women? Where's the gender non-conforming women? And so I was frustrated. I got off the treadmill and I wrote this little short about the first woman on the constabulary, and she was basically a Bush in a dress, and the homophobic sergeant who wouldn't let her do anything. And so it was just one of those things born out of frustration of not seeing yourself in an actual thing, and that's how Maggie Mysteries came about.
Right
and I
on.
can't figure out why they won't book me as an actor on Murdoch Mysteries. I can't.
I think yours reminded me of kind of like the PBS streaming mystery shows. Do you get that when people watch your movie or your film?
I think that it depends. If people are familiar with Murdoch Mysteries, they get all the inside jokes. If they don't, they just have that kind of reaction that you had, which is, this feels like that. Yeah.
Well, right on. It's goofy and wonderful.
Thank you.
And guys, forgive me if I don't remember the details of your movies. I've watched many, many hundreds of movies, but I do remember your movies, and I'm glad they're in the festival. You should ride the treadmill more often, Maggie, for inspiration.
Yeah, it's right over there. Very, very inspiring, the treadmill.
Kyle, how about you? How'd your idea come about? Introduce yourself.
My name's Kyle Lau. I'm the writer director of White Now, Please. Honestly, it came about by I had a mentor that kind of challenged me and just said, put yourself in a vulnerable situation, let's just go for it, send it. And so I was like, oh, well, that's why this film is about a kid who wants to be a hero. So he tries to become a superhero by being the thing that all superheroes are, which is white. And so it's about a race exchange world where you can change, and he grapples with the decision to do that, if he does or not. And it's fun to work with kid actors, I'll tell you that.
Well, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that. I'm sure that was a big challenge, maybe not. Well, thanks for being here. Hey, Jen, how you doing? Please introduce yourself and your movie.
Yeah, I'm Jen Harris. I'm the writer, director, producer, star of She's Clean, which is a short little comedy about a resilient woman who tries to marry her desires for sexual freedom with emotional intimacy by showering with all her dates. And it came about as if I found myself and many of my, middle age, and it depends on who you speak to, saying middle age, but I'll say 40-something women, we'll use that, found themselves single or have been single, and what the dating is life, sort of mixed with what being alone in the world is as a 40-something woman. And I set it entirely in a bathroom because I wanted to give myself sort of a challenge and to be able to keep, 15 pages and 15 different men interesting and non-repetitive in a single location, and what that could look like directorially and visually. And I also, in the space of intimacy, of which I'm interested in all things intimacy discussion, I thought, well, the bedroom's kind of boring. And I thought, what's a more intimate than a bedroom? And I was like, the bathroom. And I like funny, and the bathroom's just more funny than the bedroom to me. So that's sort of how it came about.
It's where pooping happens.
It's where pooping happens, and spoiler alert, there's no shitting in my film.
No
Spoiler
pooping.
alert.
And there is nudity. Spoiler alert.
Yes,
Uh,
there is. There is.
Very wonderful film, courageous and bold too. Hey, Jason, please introduce yourself.
Hi guys. My name is Jason Hazard. I'm a writer, and I also was the co-director of the film Die Shirley. And I co-directed that with my friend and oftentimes writing partner, Ben Simpkins, who can't be here right now, but I'm filling in for the both of us. And Die Shirley, it was just really like kind of whimsical idea, like a bit of a reaction to the insane world that we've been living in, the past like 7 years now or whatever. And just this notion of like what it be like a ostracized like black sheep in like kind of a insane like neoliberal den of wolves, and what it's like to come home for dinner and to be with family and have everything be very biting and insult driven in a sense.
So was your family inspirational in this? Not to get you in trouble.
No, I always send my family my work too, and I'm like, this is not about you. I had, just been witness to a lot of different like little conversations here and there over the years, and I thought that those should be strung together in a very absurdist kind of comedy fashion to highlight how insane they are. And I think you hear like these little insane bits from friends and people left and right, and it doesn't always register how insane they are when they're saying them in front of you. But if you can put it into a comedy, like Die Shirley, I think it translates a little bit better.
Well, I could spend at least an hour with each of you guys and your films, but we don't have that kind of time. So I'm just going to ask all over the place questions. You've inspired me to ask Jason about all these films are clever, witty. The dialogue's great. The writing's really good. So let me spend time on the writing. So do you go and like over the years write down those little pieces of dialogue that you hear, Jason, and then collect them together into the short?
Yeah, sometimes I have a bit of an autographic memory, so I can remember a lot of things that I just hear, like from songs, from movies, from people I know, and so I'm replaying those things in my head all the time, and then I'm switching the tones in them to make them, more hilarious or exaggerated. And I do often write down, things or situations that I've witnessed and keep a bit of a journal in that way. Yeah.
Like just came to my memory. I drank my way through my pregnancy or something like that. I drank my way through my pregnancy with Shirley.
Yes, exactly.
And she's fine, right?
Pardon?
And she was fine. First of all, to your memory, because I can't remember anything. So I'm so jealous of your memory right now. And secondly, I'm just going to say this about that. You think it's been the last 7 years, but I literally was Shirley when I was 18. That is exactly something that happened. And let me tell you that was decades and decades and decades ago. I ruined every Thanksgiving. Everyone was a racist or a misogynist. And
that's my girl right there.
Everyone's like, oh, you can't say anything anymore. I'm like, I can't be mad at these youngsters who are like wagging their finger at me because it was me.
Exactly. I felt like you could. I felt like a lot of folks would be able to really relate to her character. Yeah. And Shirley is like, she, they, gender nonconforming, just like such a sore thumb within that family, but at the same time was given all of the, benefits of having grown up in that system with like, her privilege to her education and all these things that she had. And so they kind of have it out for her in that sense too, because they're like, all these things that you benefited from your whole life, now you're shoving in our face, like, fuck you.
Except that what I loved was that Shirley actually tried to hold it together for Thanksgiving, which was a nice twist. I mean, you're the only movie I had a chance to watch, but I will say this about that. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like Shirley's in the bathroom smoking, not to give it away, but smoking weed, trying to keep it together and not blow up the dinner. If I had known, I should have gone to the bathroom and smoked weed back then. So many dinners would have not ended up with me walking out and my mother crying.
Yeah, fortunately, weed is legal now, so yeah, she
Right.
can do that. Yeah, you know what?
We'll
And
send some from the Bay. We'll send some to the Bay. to
that's right.
Toronto.
That's right.
Easy.
Mail order. And you know what, Maggie? Since we're talking with you right now too, also fantastic dialogue. All these shorts, fantastic dialogue. And a standout for me is if you want something done, call a lesbian.
Yeah, that was just the voiceover at the beginning. Yeah, I mean, look, it's not my movie isn't deep. It isn't really subtle. It doesn't have any of the when Jen talks about her movie and Kyle talks about his movies. It is something to be that gender nonconforming, which is the words we use now. But butch was the word I used when we were younger. Person who's thrust into the thing, and it's like, are you a real woman? And this was what brings me to where I am today. When people are like, what are your pronouns? It's like, I think a really long time about that, because part of me is like, well, I don't conform to that stuff. But then another part of me, because I used to be a lawyer and I'm a conspiracy theorist too, is like, they want me to not say she, her, because she, her doesn't look like me. Well, guess what? She, her does look like me. And screw you if you think that I'm not going to call my, you know what my pronouns are? She, her, sir. And that's the t-shirt I'm actually in the process of getting made right now. Because
Cool.
I called sir a lot, so you know what? Yeah, call me sir. But part of me is in this, balance. Where's the struggle with, do I go towards the they, or do I plant myself here? Because for me, my experience is I'm not uncomfortable in my body. I'm not transgender person, but I always get misgendered. So I must not be she, her, right? Even though it's how you feel, but that's what turns it back. It's how I feel. And how I feel is, guess what? She, her looks like me too.
You can make money. You can make money with that T-shirt, and that can maybe be some sort of log line for Maggie Mysteries.
Yeah, she, her, sir. Well, so anyhow, mine is, I don't feel like it's as deep as the other three people here. It does have a deep connection for me, and certainly it's very easy to portray that kind of misogyny and queer phobia with the character who plays the sergeant, my friend Shannon there, who was also the director, but because that is really actually based on the exact guy in the actual show. So it's part parody, which I always think is an easy way out, but it does have and of course, there's that little twist where, Maggie gets the girl in the end too, right? So that's
these films are, varied, and they're wonderful for very different reasons. They're different textures, different forms, but they do all make me smile or chuckle. Hey, so Kyle, tell me, since we're talking about writing, your writing process, or any kind of neat tidbits about the creative process for your film.
Yeah, I think for me, pandemic definitely delayed it. I wrote it like 3 years ago, and it was like, oh, we're ready to produce it. We're going to do it right now. And then like, oh, March 2020. Oh, okay, cool. We can't do this. And especially with kids, like this is like the worst thing to shoot in a pandemic. Kids that aren't, vaccinated, and we need a school, and we need all these things. And so it was very difficult. But as far as like the writing creative process, I'm a very A-type OCD type person. So I very much like, okay, we'll get the general concept, and I'll like outline, and then like story area outline, and I do different things. And like, even to the point where we're right on set, and like, we have the jokes and all lined up, but almost formulaically like, oh, here's an alt for this, like punchline here, for here's these other things. So just in the sense of, I come from TV writing, so we kind of are always just like rewriting all the time, and just in that process in a very formulaic way. So it's not as sexy and fun as I think, like, like Maggie maybe, or Jen and Jason, but it helped, and that's how I kind of like think of it in that way. So
yeah, no, it's very fun. But you also all these kind of movies maybe have a little subliminal or subtexture social commentary, if you will. Did you think of that, Kyle? Like, did it come from some personal background experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of those things, like, again, it's about identity, and Asian American identity specifically. And I think, going through it and talking to all my friends and growing up in this culture, I was always comfortable in my skin as well. And just like, I'm proud to be Asian. I love this. But when you get deeper into it, when we're 4.8% of the population, it's kind of tough to, a lot of my friends are like, yeah, I wish I was Black. I wish I was white instead. It'd just be easier. Not that I don't have pride in it, but it's just, if for, on a racial standpoint, it just is easier. And so for people to understand, and so that was kind of the guys, and like, seeing, let's have that conversation of like, if someone that is proud versus isn't proud, like, how does that conversation go? And so, another level of this experience of minorities in our
Sure,
world.
yeah. It seems like all your backgrounds, your life experiences have influenced your media, these films in particular. Jen, speak to that too. Your writing process, creative process, your inspirations, all that stuff.
Sure. I come from an actor first, and a lot of comedy and improv, and a lot of because my short is a bunch of different short scenes, about 15 or 16. I definitely had the index cards on the wall. After I had them fleshed out, I definitely had to sort of do some organizing and get really particular about that before we shot. But the actual interactions, the scenes with the men and one gender nonconforming actor, they were experiences and incidences that I've heard my friends have, that I've had, my friends have had, other women have had, and some men in the dating world, and also kind of like put a little spin on them as well. Some, I won't say which, but I would say maybe there's like one that's pretty much word for word.
Wow, yeah, yeah. And let's speak about challenges. I was, not knowing what to expect when I watched your film, and you're pretty courageous and bold, and so are all your other performers with nudity and maybe awkward moments. What were some challenges for making your short?
It's interesting. I think that just sidebar, I think I'm going to have to start thinking about when people call it courageous, like courageous and bold, because I honestly, I'm sort of like, what was courageous and bold? And I'm not trying to be like, because for me, I'm just like, well, it's set in a bathroom, like we're naked.
It's very natural.
I'm very practical about stuff. And I just was like, I mean, I didn't even write it for me to play the part. It was just because of COVID and because of necessity and because of money. I'm like, I gotta just do this. I gotta just and I don't want to ask her to have to, and I just need to, it just sort of was like, and I'm glad that I did. But it is interesting, and I thank you. And I also think that I'm very practical about stuff, and I hope that it was shot. Our frames were just very well, what are we capturing? What is it? What are we seeing? Obviously, there's a couple shots that are intentional, especially from the beginning. There's a couple shots at the beginning, but I do think that it's well, it's in a bathroom. And I really for me, stylistically, I don't like when a story is sort of blanketed, quite literally. And we're trying to sort of take care of certain things, especially with nudity. I'm if I'm in a bathroom and we're taking a shower, that's where we are. Mm-hmm. And I do think that, and luckily my actors, and we had an intimacy coordinator, and it was a whole to do with COVID and intimacy coordination. And it was just an amazing process. And everyone understood what we were doing and what I wanted to get across. And hopefully then that became normalized pretty quickly on. And then we got to move forward too. And I think that there's, also, who we're looking at too, what is or isn't distracting, just practically played into it as well. And it was a challenge, but I do think that it was just, I wanted it in a bathroom, and it would look too protected. Yeah. If I'm talking about intimacy, I don't want to protect intimacy anymore. I don't want to hide.
Which that came across well done. So it adds to its naturalness and freshness. That's why it was a unique viewing experience and stood out for me. Yeah, well done. But how about a challenge with those shooting in bathrooms? Just filmmaking space-wise, forget the people, but there's no room.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you what, most of my budget went into that goddamn brownstone. And also because of COVID, and the crew and the cast, I had to have a big space. We couldn't just be in an apartment. I had to throw money down on this giant 2-story backyard brownstone because we just needed space to be. Right? You couldn't just people.
So where'd you get the space from? Where'd you find the brownstone?
On what's it called? That
location site?
Yeah, location site in New York. It was in Brooklyn.
Okay. So it wasn't a friend or family member where you're not.
Oh, I tried. That didn't happen. I had to scrape. And honestly, it was money well spent because I worried about nothing. Everyone had space. And the bathroom was actually quite big for a bathroom. And me and my DP, Charlie Gruet, who's the DP for High Maintenance, who's the DP on the other two, like we just like the whole thing was, where can we go? I'm like, can we go underwater? Can we like,
Yeah, cool.
we just put the camera everywhere.
Right on. Maggie, you raised your hand.
Well, before Kyle goes, because I know Kyle has to go, I just want to know like about kids, challenge kid
Well, you
wise.
know, Maggie, let's hold that question real quick because Kyle does have to go. Yeah, Kyle, go ahead and speak. Say anything else you want. You only got 3 minutes left, so before you have to go.
Yeah, I think working with kids is great. I mean, the toughest thing was obviously finding. I think the biggest hurdle is the auditions, and once you just land the person, because I think the level of discrepancy of like really good child actors and like, you know, they're super cute, but like, can they hit their marks, move the lines, and, you know? And so we are so lucky to land Isaac, who is the lead on our film, who honestly, like I had this other actor in mind and we were going through it, but then it just wasn't really working out. So I was like, okay, I don't think that's going to work out. And then so I actually listened to him on Ryan the Last Dragon. He was a kid in there. I'm like, oh, that like voice, that timbre, like the comedic timing, like he's got it. We ended up having mutual friends. The Asian American community is not that big, so we had some things, and so we kind of were able to like have a heart to heart, like this is what I want to do with the film, and we were able to land Isaac, which was great. And then from there, just like, you know, filling out the rest of the cast. I think audition process is huge, and because when you audition them, you're also auditioning their parents and the
I was just going to ask that.
know?
Were the parents on set, and was that?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and it's you know, I'm glad I have a no assholes policy on my sets and my teams, and so for when you are auditioning them, it's kind of like you're seeing like, is this a mom or a dad or a guardian that is just gonna kind of always be in your business, like, hey, take another shot at this, like, you know. And all of them have kind of had experiences on set. A lot of the kid actors have worked on like Nickelodeon shows and these other things, so it was like they knew the deal and like, you know, trusted the fact that like, you know, we have the best intentions in mind. We're trying to make good content and like, you know, put everyone in the best of light. So have that trust and that dialogue early on. And then the kids, just honestly, I was so impressed. Like I've worked with many adult actors, and like some of these kids are like, you know, they're hitting their marks and like helping adjusting camera angles so that they could be, you know, seen better and like help the other person's coverage. It's like advanced stuff that like normal people aren't really, you know, thinking about, let alone like a 12-year-old, 15-year-old kid, right? So
Yeah.
Super impressed. But I think it all comes down to just honest dialogue and just like, you know, just the audition process. And
their performances are wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Anything you want to add that I didn't ask you or you didn't have time to say, because I know you got to split?
Yeah, well, thank you for respecting the time, and I'm so excited to check out all your films. Like honestly, just seeing the masterminds behind the process is super fun, because now like I know your individual personalities, and I'm like excited to see that translate into like the project. And just like I'm so stoked to be part of this festival. It's going to be awesome, and I can't wait. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm going to stick around and talk to these other filmmakers a little bit more. But thanks, Kyle.
Your film is great, Kyle.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see it, Kyle.
We'll talk soon.
Bye. All right, stick around, people. Jason, tell us some challenges for your film, or talk about your movie.
Sure. Well, you know, I wanted to put the film in a single location because I'm poor, and I was like, I need to make something I don't have to find like a bazillion, like, you know, different sets for. And so the idea of setting it all in like, you know, a single house and a kitchen at Thanksgiving, and, you know, the bathroom in the house. But we also were filming during COVID. So it was, we filmed it in August 2021, and the day before we shot, our Jerry, who's played by the amazing Tolliver, whom you should definitely check out their music and everything.
Oh my God, can I just say I loved your cast so much.
Thank you. And Steph Tolov is from Toronto.
Yeah, she is. Yes, Steph Tolov.
Ontario.
Yeah.
And so the day before, we had another actor, Solomon Giorgio, who's another stand-up, and we went to work.
Love Solomon Giorgio, also amazing stand-up.
Amazing.
Sorry.
He got COVID the day before, and
God.
then we had to replace him with Tolliver, like literally Photoshop Tolliver's head onto like all of the other like pictures and stuff that we'd set up for the house. And thank God, I mean, Tolliver and Solomon are actually like the same height. We're all like tall people, but he had come in and just nailed it. And he brought a different tone into it, which was different than what Solomon was going to bring, but it totally worked. And really, we shot it in just 2 days, and sitting it around, like, we just had all of our blocking right. We really rehearsed like so much ahead of time. And then it was just about getting coverage on that dinner table, so that we could.
Yeah, well done. And the editing, I'm sure, played a big part. Hey, real quick, just a note: try not to shake your table a little bit. Your camera's getting really wobbled, and you're shaky on the Zoom call. I do that too. And also, like I said before, I think your film almost could have been categorized or programmed maybe kind of like a horror film. You could have approached this from different angles with the direction. It almost could have been just like, right now it's kind of over the top and really, satirical. You could almost done serious if you wanted in deadpan.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
because the writing
we wanted
works.
to give those horror vibes, like with the looks and some of the cuts.
And just the writing, the words that these people say, and they're some true kind of real life kind of commentary there. It's scary.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So how long did it take you to make the whole film? You said 2 days?
We shot it in 2 days. We set up the house, and I was fortunate enough to get a house from some friends.
Are they still your friends?
Pardon?
Are they still your friends?
Yes, they are. Yeah, they're like huge. They're huge supporters of mine, and they also gave me like the grandfather was like their dad. So like their daughters were like my PAs. I'm sorry, I'm shaking the table. But the house almost felt like another character as well. And so we shot it in 2 days. We set up the house the day before and did some like B-roll stuff. And then we edited it very fast because we wanted to put it out before Thanksgiving and just put it out online. And then we were able to garner some press for it as well.
That's impressive.
Can we talk about editing very fast? Like that's really hard.
It is really hard. Maggie, before you do that, let's do that. I want to ask the same question to you and Jen. How long was your production process and how was editing? So Maggie, I'm on you. How many days for the shoot?
2 days, same thing.
Wow.
I had some, that was my own home. My old home, the one I just moved from, has been in more film and television than I have. I mean, an Adam McGoyan movie was shot there. Ryan Reynolds shot someone to death in my living room. It's been in commercials. Right now, it's just booked a series. I'm like, damn you, my house, my old house. So I was fortunate in that regard. And it was, even though it was in the city, it was on a bit of a ravine. So I had room to run around. Oh no, that's not true. The original opening was actually shot in a house in Cabbagetown, Toronto, where the Murdoch Mysteries movie was originally shot. So I had a little insular thing going on there because, of course, like you, we have people who support us. Two of my a gay couple I knew, Brian and Jim, they were like, you can shoot in our house, and this is where the original Murdoch Mysteries movie was shot. So I was lucky in that regard. So yeah, 2 days, obviously a lot of prep and all of that stuff. And then I went through editing hell though. So that's why I'm
Why was it editing hell for you?
Sometimes when you're on limited budget, people reach out and want to help. And sometimes it just doesn't, it takes up more time. So
did you edit yourself or did someone edit for you?
No, I actually had someone volunteer to edit for me who is a genius, by the way, a genius DOP and shooter. And but they just didn't have the time. And so it's hard to say kind of this, I got to move on because this person is helping you. Right. So, I learned a valuable lesson in that. And then when I finally got to, but it put me back a long time.
Because, it's advisable or an advantage to have fresh eyes be the editor as opposed to doing it yourself, as we all know, right?
Oh, no. Well, I mean, I assemblied edited. All of us, because we're on limited budgets, I'm sure have learned how to, do an assembly edit or just dump our footage into an editing thing. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I had to, right? Because sometimes you just don't want to wait and you want to look at stuff and you want to get it in order and you want to do it right away. But as far as editing for editing's sake, a good editor is a storyteller. We all know that. There was a movie called, I don't know what it was, but it was a whole bunch of female comics and I can't remember the name of it now, but it was basically like a bunch of scenes. Maybe it was Bad Mom. I don't know, but whoever that editor was so brilliant because they took all those scenes and put that story together and told that story and made all of those scenes into a funny movie.
Mhm.
And sometimes your editor is another storyteller, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, a lot of time the editor, from the stories I've heard, make the movie, or save the movie. Jen, talk about these topics a little bit. Production struggles, process, and editing.
Sure. We shot in 4 days. I had a lot of actors. I had to do four people a day and a body double. And we had 1 day of load in prior to get everything together and ready. I'm so glad we had those 4 days. We needed them. Even though it was one location, I thought that I was like, this is gonna be easy. Nope. But everyone did really great. Yeah, my editor, Jana Emig, is amazing. And I spoke with her before we shot. So I do try, I've had her before in a short film that I did called Island Queen. And I spoke with her, especially the nature of this film isn't really, it's not linear, it's more mood piece in a sense. And there's a lot of vignettes. It's all vignettes put together. So the transitions need to kind of work. And it wasn't a film where it's like, well, we'll just take scene 6 and throw it into 2 and it's like, well, do we have something that makes sense to go from 1 into 2? So I really had to be like clear that like, this is the order of the scenes and that I before we shot, so that we knew that a transition would work from one thing to the next that we grabbed. And it did. We started out, I have an 18-minute version. It's 15, but I have an 18-minute version that I love. But
You gotta go. What's that statement? You gotta cut your darlings.
I know, and I truly did. And I cut a couple scenes. I cut one actor out, and it was these really fun scenes where we didn't speak. We were just in the shower together, and I loved it. And he's fabulous. And a couple things just had to go. I had to get rid of some stuff, but I'm happy with it. And
It flows nicely. But these are shorts after all. One of the things I find problematic in my screening out submissions, they get way too long. The filmmakers are way in love with their footage. Understandable. I'm a filmmaker too, but they got to learn. And that's why maybe an outside editor would be helpful. Learn to let go of some things.
Yeah, so we definitely we got to we loved our 18, and then we're like, all right, now what can we do? Mm-hmm. And we honed it in, and it was great. And I had extra work. Our sound, I had my production sound guy, I rehired him again to do some extra post sound on it, which cleaned up some of the shower stuff that I was happy with. And that was tricky. Sound, I knew. I was like, okay, water's going to be running, and no one could wear mics. Like there was no lavs there was no lavs in my film, so it was all boom.
Yeah, no, the production value and quality on all of your films is excellent, and even considering that the genre is light and goofy and whimsical, production is taken seriously, and you guys have great films.
Well, sound is everything. That is for sure.
Everything.
Yeah.
You did a lot.
You know what? I think Maggie. That reminds me. I love the music in yours. I think.
Yeah. Well, the opening of
soundtrack.
The opening of mine is actually the Murdoch Mysteries theme song. So I wrote. No. Full disclosure. I know them. I mean, they shoot it here. So I was friends with the publicist. I wrote him and I said, do we have permission? He asked. They said, we know, we understand, we know. And then they never said no. So, the rest of the music is a lot of my editor helped with that. So
yeah, it was kind of a period piece appropriate and just a nice touch. I remember it stood out for me.
Thank you.
Well matched. So we only got time for say one more or two more questions. What are you hoping audiences feel from watching a movie, if anything? Are you hoping audiences take something away? Maggie, the screen's on you right now. Are you hoping?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I think people are it just seems pretty obvious to me. It is about, being that gender nonconforming person stuck in that position. But at least they're there, she's there, she's doing her thing, but also it's to make people laugh. I mean, it's supposed to again, I used to be a lawyer. I mean, all of that stuff. I was a radical lesbian, feminist, separatist. I all of those things, back when I was conscious in my first year of school at Boston College, where I studied with Mary.
I went to Boston College.
I went to Boston University.
I studied with Mary Daly. Anyway, so where I became this, all of that to say, I found that, I got a lot further winning hearts and minds with comedy. than I do hitting someone over the head with either a lawsuit or a picket sign. Although I still take to the streets any day of the week when it's necessary. I'm just saying. So I hope they laugh in all the right places and somebody feels good that they saw themselves, and we move on and we do the next one.
Who'd like to go next? Same topic, question.
I'll piggyback off of a fellow Eagle, a fellow. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the first and foremost, I want people to laugh. That's why we make comedy. And I think that comedy as a vehicle to tell the truth and to show light is so much, it's more palatable in a way, because when you're laughing, you're making people, break down and reconsider things from a different angle. And I also think as I'm like 6'5" and like a big, very queer, person, and have been forever. And so you're used to being otherized and being different. And a way that I made myself safer, I felt like growing up, was by being a bit of a jester and making people laugh and like leaning into it. And so I have always seen things from that kind of from that point of view. And my family's from the Midwest. Like I'm from, Minnesota. My parents are from Michigan, Indiana, that whole region. And so they're Scandinavian, and they're like a lot colder and like a little bit, but have a very dry and sarcastic sense of humor. And lots of like little biting quips, even though there's a lot of love, but there's also those quips. And I just wanted to put those in because I felt like people probably understood that, in a family dynamic or whatever. And I just want people to think about things and think about, how they're viewing the world, and to laugh while they're doing it.
I think you accomplished all those things.
Nailed it.
Yeah, Jen.
Absolutely. Well, Jason, I think you intentionally did the Boston contingent on here. And as a Terrier, as a rival to the Boston College, the Terriers. First of all, I just have to say on music, I have to give props to Cormac Bluestone, who does the original music for my work. And with She's Clean, Cormac did a lot of just body sounds. A lot of what you're hearing is just Cormac using his body and his mouth to make music.
Wow.
Himself as an instrument. So anyway, I have to give Cormac props. Takeaway, love, laugh. Intimacy is so ridiculous and embarrassing and awkward. And if I can't laugh about it, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't want to go to the tragic, I as comedy is truth. I love for people to not feel alone. And with something, if it speaks to, and I hope it does speak to people who are, not quite so young anymore and perfectly happy with the way they turned out and are still finding themselves alone, and they don't want to be, and they don't want to have to be, they're wondering why it's still that way. And I think that's something I definitely don't want to feel alone about, and I hope other people don't. And I think that, again, intimacy is something that, like, if I can't laugh about it, I think I drowned in it.
Right on. Well done. All right, last comments. Anything I didn't ask you or you wanted to say before we go? We got to sign off now.
Thank you. I mean, really, thank you.
Course.
San Francisco, as a young queer who came out in there were two places to go, and they were Provincetown and San Francisco, and that was it. There was no other. I grew up in Connecticut, by the way. So so San Francisco, it's a nice laurel. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Jason, any other thing you want to add that I didn't ask you or you didn't get a chance to say?
No, I mean, just really thank you too from the bottom of my heart. And I really feel like there's a lot of vulnerability and truth in everyone's films, and, putting that in there and then injecting in some talented actors and doing the right casting. And that is what's going to make it. And I think everyone really succeeded in that. And it's an honor to be selected for your festival.
Yeah. Thank you. Agreed. Jen, parting words, last but not least.
Again, I would say thank you so much. I love both of y'all's films. I can't wait to see the rest of the people in the program. And also, I think thinking about the other performers, actors in my film, I think they sort of deserve the brevity badge. And my casting director, Andrew Fenn, helps me find an amazing group of individuals who didn't have control over the editing and didn't know what I was going to use and wasn't able to choose. I knew I'm like, I'll be able to, I won't use that if I don't want it, but they really gave their whole selves to my film, and I'll forever be in debt for the vulnerability on both literally and figuratively that they brought to my film forever.
Yeah. Well, we are in debt to you for making these great little shorts. We thank you for that, not only for submitting to our film festival, but getting them completed. Well done. I hope to meet all of you in person someday, but that's all the time we have. All right. Thanks, you guys. You're wonderful. Thanks to our audiences for watching. Support more indie film at sfindie.com. And thanks for supporting independent cinema, shorts, and movie theaters. All right, filmmakers, be well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao.